Section 2.3 is multiplying rational numbers. So there are certain sign rules for multiplication. I'm sure you've seen these before. The product of two numbers having the same sign is positive. So, for example, 3 times 4, they're both positive, we get 12. Negative 3 times negative 4, both negative, we still get a positive 12. The product of two numbers having different signs is negative. So if one of them is positive, positive 3 and negative 4, our answer is a negative 12. And a negative 3 times a positive 4 is also negative 12. So those are the basic rules for multiplication. So let's apply these to a few different things. So let's take a look at this expression. So I've got some multiplication here. This is subtraction because it's not in parentheses. So 3 times a negative 2y is negative 6y minus 11 times 4y is 44y. Now I have like terms, so using my addition rules, a negative plus a negative is a bigger negative, negative 50y. All right, let's try this one. 3/4 times negative 2/3 x minus subtraction in the middle, a negative 2x over 6 times a negative 1/2. You notice that once it's in parentheses, that becomes a negative sign, not a subtraction. So the first multiplication I have is 3/4 times negative 2/3. When I multiply, remember, there are two ways to look at this. I'm going to leave the negative sign out for a minute. One is to multiply straight across. 2 times 3 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. And then simplify. Oops, 1/2. Okay. Or I can look at this and I can say, well, the 3's will cancel. And 2 and 4 is 1 and 2. So I get 1/2 as well. So back to here. Negative times positive gives me a negative. And again, I'm going to do some simplifying here. Cross off the 3's. Negative 1/2 x minus, now I have a negative times a negative. I'm going to get a positive. 2's cancel, and I get x over 6. X over 6 is the same as 1/6 times x. There's an understood 1 in front of that x. So I've got negative 1/2 x minus 1/6 x. To combine like terms, I need to make these a common denominator. So negative 3/6 x minus 1/6 x. Negative and negative, when I'm adding and subtracting, negative 4/6 x, which can simplify to negative 2/3 x. So take a look at this one. There's a lot of fractions. If you have questions on anything I did, be sure to ask them. All right, another quick rule is the multiplicative property of negative 1. The product of any number and negative 1 is its additive inverse. So 3 times negative 1 gives me the additive inverse of 3, or negative 3. Negative 7 times negative 1 gives me the additive inverse of negative 7, or positive 7. So those are our multiplication rules, not too tough. I know you've seen this before. I'm going to give you 2 problems to try and to bring into class with you. The first one, you're going to evaluate when n equals negative 2/5, and you're going to evaluate n squared times negative 5/8. So try that one. The second one, evaluate when b equals negative 3, c equals negative 1, d equals negative 2. Lots of negatives I'm throwing in at you. So you're going to evaluate b squared times d minus 3 times c. Again, using these values. So work through both of those problems. Have them ready when you come to class. But that's it for the video.